Hey, it's Muni from the Mooniverse, and I want to talk to you today about how to launch your spiritual business even if you're not ready. And that seems to be like one of the number one reasons why a lot of us spiritual sensitives, healers, teachers, coaches, and guides struggle with this concept of taking ourselves from being the student or the practitioner of something into the teacher or into the entrepreneur, or to shift it from I'm going to go out there and give everything away for free to now all of a sudden I'm going to start exchanging in equal portions the energy I put out and the energy I get in. So there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm excited that you're here listening to this. So however you're listening to it or watching it, this is a great opportunity for us to address that thing that's stopping you, the thing that's not allowing you to kind of go past it or figure out what you want to do or how you want to do it. So this is a space for that. The Mooniverse is a safe and welcoming space for you to be able to figure out, okay, well, what parts of this do I like? What parts of it am I curious about? What parts do I don't even know about yet? And which parts am I absolutely not doing? So it helps you kind of just illuminate the path in front of you to see, okay, if I was going to do this, what would it look like? How much of a commitment would it be? How could I get there faster and easier than I ever thought possible? And I'll give you a big hint. That's to do it with someone who's done it before, who knows the way, who can point out all the pitfalls and all the obstacles, and then also with a team of people, with a community that's going to support you when you need it. So I'll constantly remind you of those things. And the other thing I want to tell you too is that having some ground rules when you're engaging with this type of information, especially when it's like a really vulnerable kind of like what if thing or a hope or a wish or a dream or however you identify the way you think about having a spiritual business or exchanging, money for your services or however you want to put it, is to kind of come up with a way to sort of structure that exploration. So I'll give you these three things that I always say. So first and foremost, you want to keep an open mind. And then I want you to keep a hopeful heart, and I want you to have fun with the idea. We're in make believe at this point, right? So if you haven't started your spiritual business and you're like, oh, I really want to, but I'm not sure how to do it, we're playing in the land of make believe. Like we are in that vision or in that manifestation kind of vibe to say, all right, well, what would happen? Or what could I attract? Or what could I co-create? Or how could I make this happen? Or how could I call this forward? Woo! There's so many different ways that you can relate to it. But the number one thing is like a lot of us are stuck, especially if you're spiritually sensitive, especially if you're uncomfortable charging for your gifts, especially, right? So we're going to call all of those things that we are worried about or the things that we're concerned about that are stopping us is like, we're going to call it for now, which I guess is relevant because it's Halloween and it's, spooky, whatever. So however you feel about clowns, but in this case, we're going to call it. It's that thing that's stopping you from moving forward on this journey of figuring out, is this the right move for me? So let's talk about one thing that's kind of like dispelling a rumor that's important, is that you don't have to be ready, right? So there's this idea that like, oh, I got to make sure that I get all my certifications and that like I take whatever paraprofessional courses I need to, or I do this or I do that, or I have this many hours of readings under my belt, or I know this on technological aspect, or I'm good at speaking, or I'm this or that. And so you start to stack up all of these reasons as to why you could or couldn't do it. And so what's interesting is when you start to remove that stack of things away and out from in front of you, and the easiest way to do that is to understand you don't have to be ready. In fact, it's even easier to say you're never going to be ready. And so you can say, I'm never going to be ready, and you can be sad about it, or you can say, I'm never going to be ready, and you can be thrilled about it, because no matter what happens, you're going to learn something, and there's no expectation for you to get it right the first time, because you're not ready, and you're proud of the fact that you're not ready. So the one key difference is that you have to be willing, right? So we're going to let readiness fly away, but willingness has to be there. And this is one of those moments where a lot of times people sort of like fake it till they make it. They're like, well, I'll do it a little bit and then I'll decide later if I really want to do it. And so that's something I'd ask you to make a commitment to yourself, to really think about it, meditate about it, journal about it, spend some time investigating it internally of what does it feel like to say, I'm willing, right? It's a different conversation than saying, I'm ready. If you're saying, I'm willing to try, or I'm willing to learn, or I'm willing to put myself out there, that is a much more, I think, empowering conversation to have with yourself than to have this question of like, am I ready or am I not? Because there's so much baked into the concept of being ready or being not ready. That's why I think it's great to kind of turn that whole thing on its ear and just let readiness fly away and say, you know what? It doesn't matter. If I'm ready or I'm not ready, it's the energy I have behind it. And that willingness is the piece that's going to be really important for you. So that's part one, right? That's like my best advice I could give you from all the years of 10 plus years of doing this with some of the biggest names in the industry, is that willingness to do it is going to be the key differentiator that's going to make all the difference for you when you're looking at this question of is this something I should do? The answer is yes, but you got to get there on your own. So readiness is overrated, I think, is the best way to put it. Activation is everything. And that question about whether you're willing or not, to me, is one of the first activations you have to make when you're entering this space. So it is a like total and complete myth that all of these spiritual teachers or anybody who's out there that's like doing this in a big way that you look at and you're like, ooh, I really like what they're doing and I want to do that too. None of those people just like formed like, came out of the ocean on a clamshell fully formed as a spiritual teacher. It was a journey for them too. And it was, you don't get to see all the pieces that were tough. You don't get to see all the attempts and the failures. You don't get to see all of the pieces of what had to happen in order to get that to go in the direction that it did. And a lot of times, if you ask somebody and they honestly told you, they wouldn't be able to explain it either, because it's a combination of willingness and a little bit of luck and circumstances and access and, so many variables that are in there that help a certain thing happen. And for me to be able to sit here and say, okay, well, I know how to help you get there faster and easier than you ever thought possible. I do. But when I say get there, there is different for everybody. So I think it's important for you to remember that the goals and the timelines and the journey and the twists and turns are going to be different for everybody. And sometimes you'll find yourself saying, okay, well, yes, I'm willing to do it. I'm going to jump in and do it. And then you get to some sort of moment where either it changes for you, right? So your mission changes or your vision changes, but it helps you get to whatever the next thing is, or it helps you clarify, or it helps you become more at peace with. So I'm not saying that, like it's A to B direct line, from right here watching this video to your first $1 million. That's not true. It's not possible in most cases. And if I said that, then I'd tell you to close the video and run the opposite way. So I try to bring you honest and balanced and real examples of how this might happen. And for a lot of you watching this video, the journey to get from letting go of ready and becoming this concept of like, I'm willing to do it, and learning what it feels like to encounter all of this stuff in a sense of willingness instead of a sense of readiness, could be the goal that you're trying to get to, so that you can see from a new perspective, look around and say, yeah, I'm going to keep going, or you know what, I don't know if this is for me, or anything in the middle. So I want to give you a really kind of clean and clear example or a way to view this so that you don't get that pressure starting to stack up around you, because I know what that feels like and it's not fun. In fact, fun behind the scenes thing, I was trying to set up my cameras and my lights and nothing was working, and I was starting to get more and more upset, and it took me like 15 minutes to figure out that my camera just wasn't plugged in. It would have taken me 3 seconds if I hadn't let myself get so wound up about why this wasn't working. And it's a perfect example of, we all have it, right? No matter how much you practice this, or no matter how much you spend trying to sort of like process this away and starting to create better habits, you still run into this, am I ready or am I not ready? And I have to remind myself that it doesn't matter if I'm ready, I'm willing. So looking to the next video that I create, if I run into a problem like that again, of course, I'm just going to like shut everything off, turn it back on. I'm going to have fun with it. I'm going to say, okay, well, I love technology and technology loves me, and we're going to figure this out together. And that's one of my favorite affirmations when it comes to doing this kind of work, because it has to be in that sense of fun. Our brains work better. Our energy is higher. Our vibrations are better. And so it just makes things more manageable and more doable. And I see this over and over again with the students I work with. When it feels like work and it feels like tough and it's like this unsolvable math problem, of course you don't want to look at it. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to spend time doing anything about it, because it brings you down. Whereas if you can transform the way that you approach everything into this sense of joy and fun and love, then all of a sudden, things that were previously kind of not comfortable to look at or think about, all of a sudden have like a new way of appearing to you that feels solvable, or it just feels navigable in the sense that you can like overcome it or move through it or put it to the side for a little while, come back and pick it up later. And it doesn't feel so overwhelming as it did when it was a different way, right? So I use that example, and I like to be vulnerable so that you understand, like, this is really personal for me. I feel very passionately about the fact that every spiritual entrepreneur out there, anyone with a gift that they feel called to share it with the world, finds those resources available to them so that they can figure out these pieces of the journey. the things that get in your way when you're just thinking about starting. So it'll kind of bring it back. I know I talk a lot and I talk fast, and that's because I love this stuff. Is that readiness is overrated and activation's everything? And I want to ask you this question now too, is like, all right, so maybe you've tried and failed before, maybe you've thought about it and the stars didn't align, or whatever it is you needed to have happen, or the voices in you said, nope, not now, or that there was doubt or fear or ego or whatever it was that was in there, right? That it thing. Is that what if this was your moment to say yes, right? What if you watching this video or you listening to this and hearing my voice and knowing, like, you know, I have 10 plus years of experience working on this type of thing, and I work with thousands of people from all around the world to kind of come to some conclusion and make progress moving forward. What if this was your sign? What if this was your moment to say yes, right? Yes, I'm willing and I'm ready, right? And this funny is that's how it's connected. The willingness makes you ready. It's not the other way around. So I want to leave you with that thought in this moment of saying, okay, if it's not about readiness and it's about willingness, and I can get there to willingness, the willingness will lead to my readiness. And I know that's sort of like, it just sort of completes this circuit or completes this thought on, I want you to be ready, but readiness is overrated. It's activation and it's willingness. So let's talk about right now this concept of I'm waiting for a sign. And the secret that I want to tell you about this is that, and again, I've seen this over and over again, there is no sign. You are the sign. The sign is you. The sign is you making this shift out of the concept of being ready and into the concept of being willing. And it activates something within you. And I don't know how else to describe it other than everything that you encounter, it changes the way you encounter and move through everything that you have to do, think about doing, want to do. It even kind of changes the way you hold yourself or show up to things or the way you speak about stuff. It's this sort of subtle piece of it that starts to grow and amplify the more you do things. So let's talk about what that looks like. Tiny steps are going to lead to really big shifts for you. And I want to say that over and over again, tiny steps are going to lead to big shifts. A lot of times I think that there's this concept of, all right, the rocket is launching, we got to go, right? It's happening, we got to go. There's no time, we got to do this. I think any movie I've ever seen having to do with like rockets or spaceships, there's always some moment where like something goes wrong and everyone's like, we have no time, it has to be now. I don't ever want to encourage anybody to feel that kind of pressure, because that's another one of those things that's going to suck all the energy out of this process and make it totally unbearable, and you're going to run and screaming in the opposite direction and never ever look back. So I want you to think about it in terms of, we're not really in a position to build this giant empire. And I know that you look at that and you're like, oh, it would be great to have that. A lot of times some people are like, no, I'd just love to have a tidy business. I'd love to have a calendar with 3 readings a week. I'd love to pay myself back for all the money I invested in my spiritual education. I'd love to be able to have just like a little bit of extra money so I can go to that conference at the end of the year. However it occurs to you, like the concept of you taking tiny little steps toward this goal to get those results, it's going to be a part of how you discover how you're going to fit in this journey. I don't think I have a better way of saying that. It's going to reveal itself differently to everybody. But these tiny little steps are almost like the signal that you are saying to the universe and you're saying to spirit, okay, I'm moving in this direction. Now, all the stuff that I need to process or move through or release or let go of, I'm now prepared, right? I'm ready. I'm willing to start processing this stuff so that I can get to the other side of it or release it or transform it and then figure out what my next steps are going to be. So I'm excited for you to have that journey. And it's almost like, again, I could tell you about it, but like you really got to figure it out for yourself. You have to do it in order to learn it and to get an appreciation of what it means to actually put that together. So, all right, let's be really clear. Whether or not you want to have a huge empire or just like one client, the tiny, tiny little steps are going to get you those big results. And it's all going to build and it's all going to accumulate. And the thing that you need to remember all the way through all of that is start here, start now, small start, just start. Because the starting is what signifies to the universe and to everything around you, even people around you, the people you work with and interact with, that you're up to something. And so it starts to create those opportunities and it starts to put things into alignment to help you get there to the next piece. So your next activation, there's 3 questions I want to ask you that you can utilize to go through this. So if you're still on the fence, or even if you're not, just to help clarify, 3 questions. So the first question is, what do I already know how to do that could help somebody else? What do I already know how to do that could help somebody else? Are you an energy healer? Are you a chakra teacher? Are you an angel guide? Do you channel messages? Do you have a special way with cards, oracle cards or tarot cards? So it's trying to help understand a little bit more about like, what do you already know how to do, right? So we're not saying, oh, I want to get that certification or I need to do that or I feel like I'm supposed to do that. We're not doing any of that. What do you already have? What's already in pocket? What is it that you can take a look at? Again, now that we're willing, now that we're activated, look at all the stuff you've already done and accomplished and start to piece together, what do I already know how to do that could help somebody else? It's a fun question. Second question, what kind of transformation have I lived through that someone else is praying for right now? Right? So think about your life journey and your spiritual journey and all the twists and turns and everything that's happened, everything you've encountered, everything that you've overcome. Some of the examples in the classes I've been teaching, people have overcome all sorts of obstacles, including a trauma and addiction and abuse and depression and anxiety and challenging relationships and a lack of boundaries and just being able to figure out how can I stand in my own power and say what I want to say without feeling like I'm judged or having somebody try to shut me up a little bit. So those are examples, and I think those are pretty common among spiritual sensitives, that sometimes even just someone saying like, why are you overreacting, or why are you so emotional, or why are you so sensitive? Those are such loaded questions, especially if you're like, well, this is just me. And this is how I experience the world, and this is how I share who I am. And so it's kind of realigning those questions. But think about it this way. What kind of transformation, big or small, little itty bitty tiny transformation or big whopping transformation or everything in between, what kind of transformation have I lived through that someone else is praying for right now? Think about that thought of you having some of your darkest moments, or a dark night of the soul, or a moment of doubt, or a moment of frustration, or a moment of anger or overwhelm, and the thing that brought you back to level, the thing that brought you back to equilibrium, the thing that grounded you or brought you peace, that gift, that thing you did for yourself, someone else is actively looking for it, praying for it right now, wishing that something would show up out of the blue that would help them deal with this thing that they're struggling to overcome or deal with. And the third question would be, what would I share today if I didn't need it to be perfect, it just needed to be real? What would I share today if it didn't need to be perfect, it just needed to be real? And so this is an opportunity for you to answer the question of like, you could be the messiest spiritual entrepreneur in the world, as long as at the end of the day, you were showing up for your clients in a way that was helping them process or find whatever it is that they were looking for. And again, there's no guarantees in life, and there's no guarantees in this kind of work, but the opportunity and the possibility and the openness and all of the pieces of what you can bring somebody are valuable, especially to them, especially at this moment in their journey. We can talk a lot about how that unfolds, and we probably will in more of these videos. But the question that keeps coming back to is, what would I share today if I didn't need it to be perfect? I just needed it to be real. So your three questions again are, number one, what do I already know how to do that could help somebody else? What kind of transformation have I lived through that someone else is praying for right now? And what would I share today if I didn't need it to be perfect, I just needed it to be real? So go ahead and take some time. You can pause this and write your answers down, or you can think about it. But just like, don't judge yourself. Don't edit it. Just like let stuff flow out of you. You can work on the details later. But then I want you to take a look at this and say, all right, what's one tiny little thing that came out of this writing exercise that's based off of these three questions, or something that I said, or the way in which I said it, that's a doable little tiny step that's going to take you one step closer to actually attaching yourself to this energy of momentum around your spiritual business, right? And I'm saying that very carefully because I don't want to use the wrong word, to trigger anything, but at the same time, I want to keep it as open as possible. Whatever that thing is, whatever it occurs to you to be, there's no right or wrong answer. To help move you in a direction is what the goal is here. And this is how we start, right? This is how we begin. And this is how, quite frankly, we change the world. And I always thought that was like this way out of pocket thing where I was just like, well, all right, change the world. I don't know. The reality is it's changing my world. And if that's the case, my way of seeing the world and moving through the world is changing. And that's how we are changing the world. First for ourselves, and then it sort of radiates out of us. and it starts to affect the people around us, the things that we encounter, the people that we see, the things that we work on, the way in which we navigate the world becomes different. So I'm super excited for you to get this going. And I really want you to think about what it is that you can do to practice this concept of we're taking ready and we're releasing it, and we're moving towards the activation of being willing. So I'm Muni from the Muniverse. Come and check us out at themuniverse.com. Get started today. Meet some cool people in the Facebook group. Join my newsletter list. You can stay in touch and find out more about all the cool resources and things that we're doing to help you get started. And more than anything else, you are your sign. Remember that. There is no external sign. The sign is you. And I'm so happy that I can share this information with you. And I'm so thrilled and honored to have spent this time with you. And I hope I get to see you soon.